The best hitters in the world do not hit up against their front leg. Everyone talks about the front leg bracing. Everyone talks about creating massive hip-shoulder separation to increase your bat speed and exit velo. I don't believe that that's the case. And over the last 10 years, we've trained thousands of hitters to do the exact opposite of that. And in this video, I'm gonna break down how you can do it too. So to be clear, yes, I know that the front foot does brace when you're hitting, but that's not the point. The front foot's gonna do whatever it needs to do whenever it does it. The main goals that we have as hitters is to make sure that we're ready on time and we have a really good load, so that way we can swing when we want to, not when we're forced to because our weight has shifted too far forward into the front foot and now we're screwed and we just gotta throw our arms, okay? So what generally happens when I say that I don't believe that hitters hit up against their front leg is coaches will be like, well, the front leg braces, you can measure it on force plates and all the other nonsense. I know it braces, okay? And I know it does have some type of a role in the swing. However, it's not a trainable characteristic for us whatsoever. Because if we focus on the end result, we're gonna miss all the other important stuff that actually creates a high quality swing anyways. All right, so this is not me arguing that the front foot doesn't brace. I know it braces, okay? But it's more about the timing of our launch and how we launch that matters significantly more than what this front foot is gonna do when it does it. So most coaches, not all coaches, but most coaches who really preach landing hard up against this front foot down early, hit from 50-50, so on and so forth, in order to get to this position and still stay loaded on my backside, which everybody also somehow believes, even though they teach this, which doesn't make sense. But in order for me to actually stay loaded on my backside while I do this, that means I'm going to need to try to create more hip-shoulder separation, okay? So I'm going to have to go like this. As I do that, I actually lose time as a hitter. And here's why. A pitcher can maximize hip-shoulder separation, okay? Because when you're looking at them, they're in control of time. So they can maximize this massive stretch up against their body, and that stretch helps them throw harder, okay? Because it transfers all this energy from the lower half up into the lat, into the arm, and then so on and so forth as they close those gaps. They have all the time in the world to close those gaps. Hitters have no time, okay? We are at the mercy of the pitcher. And when you're facing 95 to 100 miles an hour, you want to save as much time as humanly possible. So for us, our stretch is on this backside. Now here's where it gets like the nuanced of the swing, is because if I stretch down my back in order to swing, okay, so this stretch happening down my back here, if I stretch down my back, I can still stay loaded on my backside. I can also still have a forward move. But if I believe that I need to create hip-shoulder separation, or if I believe that I need to land hard up against the front foot in order to swing, then I'm going to do something like this in order to do it. Or something super exaggerated like this if we look back at Harper before he made the change to his swing as well, which we'll overlay right here for you, okay? And so when you do this, it takes way longer to actually close that gap, okay? So now imagine he's thrown his 95-mile-an-hour heater inside on the black. But I have to, because my coach tells me to, get the front foot down early, also create massive hip-shoulder separation, okay? So from here, and then try to close this gap as I hit. Good luck, okay? Unless you like are the elite of the elite and you have tremendous skill and amazing bat-to-ball skills, it's like I wouldn't train to do that. So for the last better part of a decade, we have trained to minimize hip-shoulder separation as much as possible in our hitters. And what that does, it allows you to fuse as one solid unit up the backside. And the best part about it is when you actually coil up the backside, you can still stretch yourself forward without creating any hip shoulder separation. So I feel wound up all through my back all the way down to my foot. Solves a lot of problems because now I can actually quote unquote stay back while still going forward, as opposed to, oh, forward move, hip shoulder separation, front foot planted, push my arms from there and see what I got. Most coaches are just trying to do and sound politically correct. They're just trying to do the politically correct thing when they're working with the hitters. They see all of these other coaches who are using data, coaching behind laptops, not actually swinging a bat, tell them to get the front foot down early, brace up against the front foot, and then rotate extremely hard. They're telling them to do that in order to increase numbers on the hit tracks and force plates and all this other stuff. What they're missing is the time between my decision to launch and the actual launch of my swing. Okay, so let's pretend I'm the guy, has to get the front foot down early, hip shoulder separation, whatever. When that ball is incoming and my leg's in the air, or even if I'm no striding, whatever, but I'm still like loaded on my backside at the very beginning of my swing, which most hitters kind of do pretty well, okay? if that's me, I make my decision during my forward move. Everybody does, okay? So as I make my decision during my forward move, if I have to plant this front foot, create this big hip shoulder separation, and then launch my barrel, do you see how decisions made, oh, do all this other stuff and then swing, will happen from there? I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to train to do that or to worry about that. I want to create as much time as humanly possible. I would much rather be the hitter who can stretch up the backside and still release a very strong, powerful, more efficient swing by stretching up the backside and then choosing, okay, swing. So as I make my forward move, I can make my decision and immediately swing. So my decision to launch and then the actual launch of my swing, that timing window can shrink. So it buys me more time as a hitter. If I have to do X, Y, Z before I can actually launch, I'm screwed. Again, unless you are elite of the elite and you're just born better than everyone else. So now a lot of you may be asking, okay, I believe this, I see it, I understand it, okay? And if you don't, just like go through all of our other videos because we have a ton of evidence on this showing it. But for those of you who really believe it and you're like, all right, I want to adapt this swing. How do I go about this process? Number one, hire somebody. Stop trying to do the free thing from YouTube videos. Number two, when I'm doing my drills, everything that I'm focusing on is trying to be ready at release, okay? Controlling my load. Really, it's those two things. If I'm ready at release and I can control my load, then I'm gonna have the ability to make my decision to swing and immediately swing, okay? Now, in order to actually prepare to be ready at release while in control of my load, so in control of my forward move, all of my training, all of my constraint drills need to be focused on that. You can do it on the tee by yourself, in your garage, in your backyard, doing all of the drills that we post all over our social media, okay? Actually knowing if you're doing it right, that's where it pays to pay, okay? But aside from that, you guys can do this. And it's a fairly easy concept to understand. In all of my drills, whether I'm doing the 3/4 open stretch and fires, which everybody does, right? Even guys who believe in the big hip shoulder separation thing, they still do this drill as well. Even when I'm doing the 3/4 open stretch and fire, I'm head over my foot and I'm getting wound up around my backside of my body, okay? When I launch, I'm trying to release my leg and my barrel at the same time, okay? If I'm doing the Happy Gilmore drill, which a lot of guys who believe front foot down early, hip shoulder separation, they do this drill and they go like this when they do it, right? For us, we're trying to control the forward move, so we're fighting against it for that. Whoops. Ignore that, I'm not cutting it, ignore that. Okay, so for us, we're trying to fight against the forward move. So when we do something like the Happy Gilmore drill, we'll get something like this, and then we're gonna be controlling the stretch on our backside, trying to release the swing before our front foot actually gets down. Something like that, okay? Now, when I swing, my front foot may touch. This is where the nuanced takes come into play. At launch, my front foot may be touching, okay? But the important part is that it's not grounded. So I don't have a significant amount of weight on my front foot. I didn't shift my weight early, okay? Lose my backside, and then try to create more hip shoulder separation and then swing. I was able to turn my barrel and launch from my rear leg when I did it. That's honestly the point in every single drill that we do. Now, yes, there's a lot of minuscule things that you'll need improvement on as you do that, like quality direction, being able to make good decisions, you know. All of these other things do play a role in how you hit, but in general, this is the big reason why it makes absolutely zero sense to chase more hip shoulder separation or to really believe that you have to plant this front foot in order to hit against it, all right? You may sacrifice 1 to 2 miles an hour in exit velo, but you're gonna increase your efficiency, be able to barrel more balls, and also buy yourself more time. So in my mind, it makes absolutely no sense for you to chase the other thing when you know this exists. So for those of you who are like, well, I don't want to sacrifice exit velo and bat speed, you just need to get stronger, okay? You need to get more explosive. And we have one of the best strength and conditioning programs for baseball players ever because we actually operate by a real system using a conjugated sequence that Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell used back in the day, except we were able to change it to fit our population, to train baseball players, to make them throw harder, swing faster, jump higher, run faster, the whole nine, okay? So in our next video, I want you to subscribe now, all right? Share this with your friends because in our next video, we're gonna cover some of that system as well and give you some tricks and tips to help you increase your exit velo and bat speed without having to damage it on the tee, all right? And if you're interested in remote training with us, just click the link down in the description. See you guys later.